Hello, my name is Katerina Kozubova, and I'm really grateful for your invitation to visit your meeting. Unfortunately, I cannot attend it in person, so therefore I decided to record it here. This week, Valik asked me to share with some of my experience visiting Ukraine, and actually, I just returned back to United States last night. Just let me tell a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Katya. I go by Katya. And in 2005, I graduated from Tavrisky Christian Institute. And I'm very grateful for this institution that set an amazing start for my life and for my career. If not for TCI, I probably wouldn't be making that far. And currently, I'm an associate professor in counseling at Colorado Christian University. And prior, my work has been for 4 years teaching at Goran Conwell Theological Seminary. As being called to counseling, I was definitely pulled to visit Ukraine as I was having this amazing opportunity to spend 5 weeks visiting my parents, my brothers, as well as connecting and reconnecting with people from my past. Most of my time I have spent in the western part of Ukraine, but also had a chance to travel back home, which is currently in the middle of the hot area in Dnipropetrovsk region. We're still don't have occupants, but definitely 50 kilometers from my hometown, we hear missiles and rockets and shootings. So let me a bit, I think, share about what I've seen and what I think that's happening currently. First of all, there is a mix of feelings, good and bad, and in between. A lot of pain, as a physical pain, as well as tons of emotional pain, tons of generational trauma, and issues with poverty and other issues that relates to the family and relationships between people. So that being said, that people in Ukraine don't experience trauma firsthand as a war trauma, but there's tons of trauma that passes along or been passing along generationally. And so what we know that people who do experience trauma, they have worse consequences and worse outcomes and more time in recovery, higher chances of developing PTSD, as well as other comorbid physical medical issues. So what I've seen, there's many of people currently in the western part of Ukraine are refugees, second time in the past 10 years. So many of them have had to relocate to, for example, Kharkiv or Kiev during 2014-2015 after the first attack of Russia. And so now they basically second time displaced, misplaced, without home, living in the big rooms of 15 people, having only a small bag of things they were able to take, as well as just having a mattress, which for what they're very, very grateful. So there is a lot of gratitude. It means amidst of the pain, there's a lot of gratitude and from people to have shelter, but also tons of needs, like with physical needs, like food, shelter, work, but also emotional needs. So also what I've noticed that people are very open to talk right now about things that are important in life, like purpose in life, what happens to you as you die, what hopes do you have, what your values are. And so there's a lot of points to connect with people and share with the gospel. And it's very easy to start conversation these days because you can definitely see people upset and you can approach and say hello and say if I can just be with them, or like if anything I can help to be present with that person. There is a lot of points in starting conversations, whether they are local or not local, and I've seen tons of graciousness towards me from people if they notice that I don't know how to get somewhere, I look misplaced, displaced, they would come and ask if I need any help. So again, it's very, very easy now to start the conversation and have meaningful conversation. So if I remember in 1990s, as the world crashed, so we did have Billy Graham crusades that was really popular. We had all these different types of evangelization on the street. So it almost seems like that can be another opportunity to approach people like on the streets randomly as strangers. But also things have changed culturally. So I wouldn't say that that approach will work very well, that you share with the two spiritual laws or kind of use just evangelization exposure program, and therefore people will be open to Christ and come to your church. There's definitely a lot of personalized touch needs to happen, and friendships and interpersonal relationships are a key right now among young adults, as well as actually the people of my parents' age. So that leads me to that counseling seems like right now in the way of an opportunity to share with the gospel, but also to provide that emotional need for people. And so one thing what I see that there's a huge desire from youth, from like young adults in Ukraine, to be those friends, to connect with people, to share with their lives, to share with hope, to bring some light in the midst of the darkness and despair and emotional numbness. At the same time, I do see that those young adults are not equipped. Many of them have education in different fields, not necessarily connected to psychology. In addition to church in Ukraine hasn't welcomed psychology for many years, and they're much close even till now. And so the need is huge. And by also trying to find out how to bring this gap and educate and help to connect with real people in a short time is also a challenge. So one of the things that I've noticed talking to ministers in Ukraine about counseling needs and soul care, a couple of things or a couple of reflections which I think need to ponder a little bit longer on that. So one of that psychology is not welcomed, and when you call counseling, even counseling in a way that we understand it in America, pastors don't understand and very much scared of that. When you talk about trauma counseling, it's more, I think, welcomed, or at least kind of more tolerated, because trauma is right now happening, and all these pastors experience it firsthand. So therefore, it's hard to deny those emotions and physical responses that they experience, that others experience as well. So most of the time it's called soul care. But also when we talk about soul care, in the mind of the pastors, it's like one seminar or one training that could fix everything in terms of train people to be those soul care givers or counselors. And it's personally been very frustrating for me to hear that and kind of bring that to the minds of ministers, that this is not enough. It's a good start, but there needs to be ongoing relationships and care of those soul carers as well, because they're going to be witnessing a lot of stories, horror stories, and can be very much secondary traumatized. In addition, what I've also noticed that youth that is welcomed to help others are the ones who actually themselves refugees, themselves misplaced. So, and again, psychologically it's understandable. So you have been through this experience, you feel it, and you want to pour into initiate, which is actually a good resiliency factor for the people who are currently in the safer places and want to help others who are in those difficult struggling situations. But that's being said, again, we need to have also a plan on how to take care of people who provide those friendships, those relationships, those that listening ear to others, whether Christians or not. And so that kind of being said, and again, as I said, I just landed last night, and tons of emotions, and my body's still processing physically and mentally everything that I have seen and absorbing all of what I've heard from people for the past 5 weeks. I kind of come into more a point or indication that church might be not necessarily the place that I would go right now to help other people or train people to help other people. So it's more likely going to be some Christian organization that is open minded, see the need, is open to have a more extensive training, not necessarily a degree, but more kind of lay counseling training, lay trauma training, and having an ongoing support with people who are more professional, people who are professional who can help to support those counselors in Ukraine, or like those soul carers, providers in Ukraine, as well as maybe kind of help them to further train and to be able to triage kind of low cases from clinical cases, as well as encouraging that organization, that Christian organization, to partner with local counselors, like trauma counselors, whether English speaking or Russian, Ukrainian speaking abroad. And there's actually quite a few of us. Maybe not many of them Christian ones. And so I think that kind of needs to be talked about and worked about, kind of what's the balance and how do we screen people and so forth, and train, kind of make those bridges happen. But definitely have those bridges where some people can supervise, some people and train, and others can provide the care and be able to be equipped faster to triage. Also, what I've seen, there are some counselors or some psychologists in Ukraine in the church. There's not many of them. Many of them, or most of them, are women and psychologists, which is again in Ukrainian Protestant church goes twice against you. That role of women in the church is quite differently understood as role of women in church in America. Probably it's like 50 years behind of American church. And again, like on top, if you're a psychologist, and that's how people are trained in Ukraine, we don't have counseling necessary programs or soul care programs that on a professional level that give you a master's degree or PhD. And so therefore, again, that's kind of very much stigmatized and not welcomed, even though there are few of those counselors who are professionals who actually can be triaged to exist. And partnering and finding more of those people would be, I think, a really good and an important factor. One thing I also been thinking before I end my video is that I can see also as an opportunity even for non-Christian counselor psychologists to, like, more maybe on a professional level, to work and provide care, kind of more humanitarian care, but for clients, or for people in Ukraine, especially if we screen and match them with more stabilized or like more strong Christian clients, that actually clients can also share with their view of their understanding and with their worldview with the counselors, because all counselors in Ukraine trained with a multicultural perspective and in mind of incorporating religiousness and spirituality as a part of the multicultural aspect. So therefore, if it comes from the person, from the client, who actually can evangelize the counselor, who is, for example, an American, or again trained that way, but lives abroad and maybe not necessarily share Christian faith, could actually serve also even like kind of evangelization points. Not just counselors provide care and kind of volunteer their time and help others and use it as a calling or as a mission, as many time as many hours they can provide, but also kind of they receive that multicultural experience that also incorporates faith of people in Ukraine, which again, as I say, that's what I see. People in Ukraine right now, they are open to Christ, to faith. Most of them would call themselves Catholic or Protestant or Orthodox. And at the time, like right now, when it's active war, people actually get spiritual. So not just kind of attending church on Easter or Christmas, but actually to pray more right now and acknowledge God and His presence and see how God works through strangers. Like it's very amazing. I had an opportunity myself to experience as a woman who just not sure she's not Christian, but at the end she said like, I think that God has brought you in my life right now to talk to you. And that was just very encouraging to hear, as again my first point wasn't just to share the gospel, but actually listen to her story and help her to find the words to her story, what she has experienced and is experiencing as of right now. So thank you so much for supporting Ukraine and partnering with Ukraine, partnering with TCI. And if you have any questions, I am going to be more than happy to share with more of my thoughts and reflections. But that's what it is for now. Thank you so much.